Well, this week marks a very important moment for the country of Ukraine. In the midst of their ongoing war with Russia, this week, Ukraine is supposed to have a new president. Quite literally, Vladimir Zelensky's 5-year term as president has expired. But because Ukraine is at war and has instituted martial law, no election was held. Zelensky remains in power, and most importantly, there is no plan for holding elections again at any point in the near future. I'm investigative journalist Ben Swann, and over the past few weeks, we have been exposing the issues surrounding Ukraine's President Zelensky. More importantly, whether Ukraine is truly the bastion of freedom that we're being told. If it is, why have the elections in that country been halted at a moment when polls show that if the election were held today, Zelensky would not be re-elected? This is a special edition of Zelensky Unmasked.
Я вважаю, що зараз вибори не на часі.
Well, that was Vladimir Zelensky in November of last year. The 2024 elections were supposed to take place 2 months ago in March. But see, that date came and went as Zelensky's approval rating has continued to decline and decline and decline. In fact, the share of Ukrainians who say they absolutely approve of Zelensky fell from 74% in the aftermath of Russia's invasion to just 22% at around the time when the election was supposed to be held. And to be fair, absolute approval, that's a tough one. And Zelensky's overall approval rating is still high, around 63%. But again, it's fallen considerably from his overall rating of around 90% at the start of the war. Now, there is a more interesting poll, though. It shows that Zelensky would have likely lost the March presidential election in Ukraine had it been held 2 months ago when it was supposed to. So who would have won? Well, that would be General Valerii Zalzhnyi, the former commander-in-chief of the Ukraine Armed Forces, and the man Zelensky fired earlier this year. Zelensky fired him because Zalzhnyi gave an interview to The Economist in which he said the war between Ukraine and Russia had reached a stalemate and Ukraine can't advance. So, let's ask this question. Why was there no election? Well, in fairness, Ukraine does have a law that states that during a time of martial law, no parliamentary or local elections can be held. The law does not cover presidential elections, but some in Ukraine and in the West, they claim that the presidential office should be included. On the other hand, others, including current and former government officials, claim that the Constitution of the country overrides the law regarding martial law. But at least the U.S. Secretary of State has made a couple things pretty clear. There will not be an election, and there won't be a change in Ukraine's leadership, not just during war, but even if a ceasefire is reached.
We're working with the government and civil society groups to shore up Ukraine's election infrastructure. That way, as soon as Ukrainians agree the conditions allow, all Ukrainians, including those displaced by Russia's aggression, can exercise their right to vote.
What many analysts seem to agree on is that even if elections cannot be held now, there needs to be less consolidation of power by the Zelensky regime. And here's what I mean by that. There is some historical precedent for this. For instance, during World War II, Winston Churchill, he stayed in office beyond his term. But historically, it's important to know that in 1940, the UK created a wartime coalition government in their parliament. See, if you're going to extend power, you must share power. Israel just did the same thing after the Hamas attack in October, creating a national unity government in wartime. What makes Ukraine unique, not only is Zelensky's expired presidential term now indefinite, but there is no coalition government in Ukraine, as Zelensky's Servant of the People Party almost completely controls the parliament. It's not a coalition government, it's a complete consolidation of power. And that seems to be for good reason. In our next episode, we're going to explain to you where the more than $100 billion sent to Ukraine appears to be going, and who's getting very, very rich, as we continue to leave Zelensky unmasked.